Hi everyone, this is Brittany from Just Be Crafty, and today I'm showing you how to make this super fun and sweet granny square motif. I'm lovingly calling this the Raspberry Sprinkle Granny Square because the pinks and bright colors remind me of a raspberry icing donut with sprinkles on top. If you look closely, you'll see that it starts off with a circle and progresses out to a square, which is what makes these grannies so much fun. And each round is a little bit different, so there's something new to work each round to keep your interest. As always, in the video's description box, I'll have links to the written pattern on my blog. I'll also be making a few projects out of these squares, so stay tuned for that in the coming weeks. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss those projects. I'll be sure to link these projects and any other tutorials in the description box below as they go live. So now, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. While this tutorial is beginner friendly, it assumes you already know the following skills: chaining, single crochet, half double crochet, and slip stitch. Once you have all those skills under your belt, I'm confident you can tackle this granny square. To begin, you'll need 5 colors of a number 4 medium weight acrylic yarn. I'm using Big Twist Value for the colorful rounds, and for the white round, I'll be using Red Heart Super Saver. I love these yarns because they come in lots of colors and they're pretty easy to get your hands on. You'll also need a 5.5mm hook, a yarn needle, and scissors. We're going to start things off with a magic ring. This is how I like to start out all of my granny squares, but if you prefer the chaining method, where you make 3 or 4 crochet chains and then join them together to form a loop, you're more than welcome to make your starting loop that way instead. To make a magic loop, you'll want to hold your yarn tail in the palm of your hand. The tail should be about 6 to 8 inches long. Then, wrap your working yarn around your index finger from front to back, making sure to overlap with the tail, making an X on your finger. The working yarn should be holding your tail in place with the X you just created. Now, using your remaining 3 fingers, hold the working yarn in place. Grab your crochet hook and insert it into the loop on your finger. Grab the working yarn with your hook and pull it through the loop and chain 2. Okay, want to try that again? With a 6 to 8 inch tail, wrap your working yarn around your index finger from front to back, making sure to overlap with the tail. Grab your crochet hook and insert it into the loop on your finger. Grab the working yarn with your hook and pull it through the loop and chain 2. If this is your first time trying this out, feel free to pause and rewind this portion of the video and practice until you get a good hang of this. At this point, we've made our magic loop and we can pull it off of our finger, and we're ready to begin our first round. In the first 2 rounds, we're going to refer to the cluster stitches we are creating as petals because, well, they resemble flower petals. The chain 2 we just created is going to count as the first stitch in our very first petal. Working on our first petal, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the ring, and draw up a loop. Yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops on your hook. Next, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the ring, draw up a loop, yarn over, and pull through the first 2 loops on our hook. So we've just created our first petal, which consists of 3 half stitches. So now we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on our hook. We've now created our first petal. We can chain 1 and we're ready to begin our next petal. So yarn over, insert your hook into the loop, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over, insert your hook into the loop, draw up a loop, yarn over, and pull through the first 2 loops on your hook. As you can see, we have 2 little half stitches and we need 1 more to make our second petal. So yarn over, insert hook into the loop, draw up a loop, yarn over, and pull through the first 2 loops on your hook. So we have 3 little half stitches to make up our petal. So now all we have left to do is yarn over and pull through all 4 loops on our hook. Chain 1. And now we've completed our second petal. We're now ready to begin our third petal. So you guessed it, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into the loop, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over, insert your hook into the loop, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, insert your hook into the loop, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops on your hook. Okay, and then yarn over and pull through all loops on your hook. And then chain 1. All right, so at this point, we're just going to keep working in the same fashion. So you're basically going to be, for each petal stitch, you're going to be working half stitches essentially until you have 4 loops on your hook. And then once you get to 4 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over and pull through all loops on your hook, followed by a chain 1. Keep continuing this process until you have 6 petals total. And as you continue working in the magic loop, you might notice that these petal stitches are really starting to take up a lot of space, and you might feel like you don't have enough room to keep putting petal stitches in the magic ring. No worries, all you have to do is kind of take your hands and maybe smush them, just kind of squish them together a little bit to give yourself some added room in your magic loop. At this point, we should have 6 petals, so if you'd like, go ahead and count your petals, make sure you have 6. And now we're going to pull on that little tail to cinch that hole closed. And that's where the magic part comes in. That's why it's called the magic loop. We're going to end round 1 with a slip stitch into the first petal. Find the top of the stitch of your first petal, and we're going to slip stitch into that stitch, and then find that chain 1, and we're going to slip stitch into there. We can now cut our yarn and fasten off. This completes round 1, and we're now ready to begin round 2. For round 2, we're going to be making 2 petal stitches in each of the 6 chain spaces. In any chain space, insert your hook, and we're now ready to grab our next color. With our next color, we're going to make a slip knot. Place that slip knot on your hook. Pull to tighten. Pull it up through the chain space, and we're going to start with a chain 2. So that's 1 and 2. Can kind of pull that tail back a little bit so that way that knot is on the back of your work and you can't see it from the front. So once again, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the chain space. Use your hands if you can't find that little chain space. Draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over, insert your hook into the same chain space, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. Now, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook, and chain 1. We've made our first petal, and so now we're going to make our second one in that same spot. So yarn over, insert your hook into the chain, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. Yarn over, insert your hook into the space, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. Yarn over, insert hook into the same space, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. Now, yarn over, and pull through all 4 loops on your hook. Chain 1. So we're basically just going to be repeating that process for that second petal we just created. We're going to be doing that 2 times in each of these chain spaces. So in the next chain space, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into that next chain space, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, insert our hook into the same space, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, insert our hook into the space, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pull through all 4 loops on our hook. Chain 1. So we're just going to keep repeating that process, making 2 petals in each of the chain spaces. And as I'm working, you'll notice that I'm really pulling up on my crochet hook to really elongate these petal stitches. I think it adds to the beauty of the stitch and it makes it not so tight. So as you're working, be mindful. If you notice that maybe you're pulling a little bit too tight, feel free to rip out and start over. That's one of the best things about crochet is that it's easy to tear back and just redo it. And that's what solidifies our skills, and it's that practice that makes us better at crocheting. So we're just going to keep working in the round, making 2 petals in each chain space. And remember, after you make your petal stitch, you want to chain 1. You should end this round with 12 total petal stitches. So if you'd like, pause here and meet back up with me once you've completed this round. All right, we're completing our last petal stitch right now, and then chain 1. And now we're ready to join this round with the first stitch of the round. So slip stitch into to the top of the first petal stitch of the round with a slip stitch, and then slip stitch into that next chain 1. Perfect. We're now ready to cut our yarn and fasten off. We've completed round 2 and we're now ready to begin round 3. And if your magic ring opens up a little bit as you're working these rounds, just tug on the tail to cinch it closed. For round 3, we'll be making granny cluster stitches in each of the 12 chain spaces from round 2. Each granny cluster will consist of 3 double crochet stitches, and we will not be separating these with a chain 1. We will end round 3 with 12 total granny clusters. So just like we did for the previous round, find any chain space and place your hook in it. Make a slip knot with your next color. Slide that on the hook and pull it through. We're going to begin round 3 with a chain 3. This chain 3 is going to count as the first double crochet in this first granny cluster. Into that same space, we're going to make 2 double crochets. So there's 1, and 2. We're now going to find the next chain space. And in the next chain space, we're going to make 3 double crochets. And we're going to repeat that same thing into the next chain. Into that next chain space, we're going to make 3 more double crochets. And you're just going to keep continuing this process. You're going to make 3 double crochets in each chain space. You're going to end this round with 12 total granny clusters. If you'd like, pause here and meet back up with me once you've completed round 3. We've just finished our last granny cluster of the round, and we're going to join with the top of that chain 3, the first chain 3 from the round. So we're going to join in there with a slip stitch. And now we're going to slip stitch across these next 2 stitches and into the granny cluster space. We're now ready to cut our yarn and fasten off. We've completed round 3 and we're ready to move on to round 4. Round 4 is where we begin to square off this circle. Insert your hook into any cluster space and grab your next color. Once again, we're going to start off with a slip knot. Place the slip knot on your hook, pull to tighten, and pull through the space. We're going to begin this round with a chain 5. This chain 5 is going to count as a double crochet plus a chain 2. So we're going to be working a partial corner for this first corner. We're going to be starting our round and ending our round in the same corner. So into that same cluster space, we're going to make 3 double crochets. So that's 1, that's 2, and 3. All right, that first corner is partially completed, and we'll finish it up at the end of the round. Push your tails out of the way and then find the next cluster space. We're going to make 3 half double crochets into that next cluster space. So in that next cluster space, we're going to make a half double crochet. And then we're going to make another half double crochet into that same space. And you guessed it, a third half double crochet into that same space. Now, in the next cluster space, we're going to make 3 more half double crochets. So here's our first one. Here's our second one. And here's our third one. Perfect. We've just finished those 3 half double crochets. And in the next cluster space, we're going to make our next corner. So this will be 3 double crochets. Here's my second one. And here's my third one. This is going to be followed by a chain 2. This is what's making our corner. And we're going to make 3 more double crochets into this same space. We have 1 more. All right, so this corner consists of 3 double crochets, a chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. In the next cluster space, we're going to be making 3 half double crochets again. So there's 1, here's 2, and here's 3 half double crochets. In the next cluster space, we're going to make 3 more half double crochets. So there's 1, 2, and 3. In our next cluster space, we'll be making another corner. So this will be 3 double crochets. So there's 1, 2, and 3 double crochets, followed by a chain 2, and 3 more double crochets into that same space. And as you keep working this round, you've likely started to notice that the straight edges are composed of half double crochets, while the corners are consisting of double crochets. Combining the stitches in this way is what will slowly prep our granny circle to become a square in the next round. In the next space, we're going to be making 3 half double crochets again. So there's our third one. And in the next space, 3 more half double crochets. And now we're going to place a corner in the next space once again. So we're going to do 3 double crochets. There's 1, here's 2, and here's 3. And I know you guessed it, we're going to do a chain 2, and then we're going to do 3 more double crochets into that same space. And as you can see, we're almost to the end of this round. Okay, in the next space, we're going to make 3 more half double crochets. So there's 1, 2, and 3. 3 more half double crochets in the next space. We've reached back around to that first corner again, and remember that chain that's just hanging out all by itself is counting as a double crochet plus the chain 2. So we just need to make 2 more double crochets into this space to finish up this round. Slip stitch into the third chain of the starting chain 5, and then slip stitch into the corner space. Cut yarn and fasten off. Okay, so we've just finished round 4 and we're ready to begin round 5. To begin round 5, we're going to place our hook into any corner space, grab your next color and slip the slip knot onto your hook, pull it up through, and we're going to start by chaining 5. This chain 5 is going to count as a double crochet plus a chain 2. Just like in round 4, for round 5, we're going to make 3 double crochets into the same chain space. And we're going to finish off this corner once we get back around to this corner again. In the next granny cluster space, we're going to make 3 double crochets. In the next cluster space, we're going to make 3 more double crochets. In the next cluster space, 3 more double crochets. And we've reached our next corner, which I think you guessed it. We're going to do 3 double crochets followed by a chain 2 and 3 more double crochets into that same chain corner space. And we're going to just keep continuing in this round in this fashion. Each corner is going to get 3 double crochets followed by a chain 2 and 3 more double crochets all in the same corner space. The straightaway granny cluster spaces will simply get 3 double crochets. So as you can see right after that corner, we're going into the next cluster space, which is 3 double crochets. And we're just going to repeat this process until we get to our next corner. We've reached our next corner, which is 3 double crochets followed by a chain 2 and 3 more double crochets. And you're just going to keep continuing on in this fashion. If you'd like, pause here and meet back up with me once you've made it back around to the beginning again. We've made it back around to that first square, and we're going to end this round with 2 double crochets into that first corner space. And we're going to join in the third chain of our starting chain 5 with a slip stitch. And we're going to slip stitch into that corner. And we can now go ahead and cut our yarn and fasten off. And that completes the crocheting portion of this square. Next, let's weave in those ends. I'm going to walk you through the process of weaving in your ends for your granny square. Go ahead and grab your yarn needle and thread it with one of your tails, and then find a nearby area with the same color. And insert your needle into the area and weave in your end back and forth in that same spot, but making sure that you catch different strands of this area as you go. Otherwise, you'll undo what you just weaved in, if that makes sense. If that sounds confusing while you're listening to it, trust me, you'll understand what I'm talking about as soon as you actually start weaving in your ends. So you just kind of go back and forth on that spot, catching different little pieces of thread as you go. And once your end feels nice and secured, you can take your scissors and cut the yarn. You're going to want to repeat this process for all remaining tails. And there you have it, the raspberry sprinkle granny square motif. I've made a couple of different projects out of these squares, so you'll want to make sure you subscribe to my channel so you're the first one to know when these projects go live. If you found this tutorial helpful, be sure to give the video a thumbs up, and once again, make sure you subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!